A rare and unusual apology to Pakistan for a U.S. airstrike last November that killed 24 Pakistani soldiers. The statement from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said, in part, quote, "We are sorry for the losses suffered by the Pakistani military. We are committed to working closely with Pakistan and Afghanistan to prevent this from ever happening again." Well, the apology reopened a NATO supply route to Afghanistan that had been closed in retaliation for the strike. But at what cost? Joining me now is Mike Barrett, a former intelligence officer for the Office of the Secretary of Defense and CEO of Diligent Innovations. Mike, thanks for being with us. Happy 4th to you. Look, for 7 months, the Obama administration refused to apologize. Now, all of a sudden, it has. Why the reversal? Is it a lack of conviction, changed circumstances, simple pragmatism? What?
Well, I think really it is at the end of the day pragmatism. I mean, we need the supply routes. Ultimately, it's a lot cheaper to go directly, which is what this route allows you to do, as opposed to having to fly everything in or going through some of the other routes that are much longer and more arduous. So I think in the sort of tactical sense, they got this one right. It was not appropriate for the president to apologize, which is what Pakistan was looking for. And in fact, we didn't even have the Secretary of Defense apologize. We had the Secretary of State. So I think it clearly falls into the diplomatic realm, and that's all for the good.
Yeah,
now, the flip side of that is that, the problem here is tactically we did the right thing, but our strategy is still very much flawed in this region.
It is certainly less than the apology President Obama made to the president of Afghanistan. This is the Secretary of State apologizing essentially to Pakistan. But look, the alternate supply routes, you're right, cost the United States about $100 million each and every month. That's, roughly 700,000 over the last 7 months. So it's a huge hit the taxpayers had to take over this thing. But what about President Obama has ordered a withdrawal from Afghanistan? And, that's going to begin in a couple of months. We're going to need those land routes through Pakistan, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And so, well, of course, we care about the taxpayer money and we don't want to be wasting money. At the end of the day, we got troops on the ground. We got people in harm's way. We need to get supplies to them. And if we're going to pull out, we need to be able to get a lot of our weapons and material out so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. If it gets too hard to take stuff out, then unfortunately, we just leave it behind when we pull the troops out. And we've made these decisions about when the troop withdrawals are going to happen based on political concerns and not on pragmatic concerns or the facts on the ground. So we're leaving. And we're leaving in about 12 months, and so we got to get the stuff out of there.
But
so I think, again, they did the right thing tactically, but the strategy is just wrong.
This is probably going to rankle a lot of people, though. I mean, you know why. I mean, Pakistan may well have been complicit in harboring Osama bin Laden. We know that elements of Pakistan's intel service, the ISI, are known to support the Taliban, if not al-Qaeda. Pakistan has done very little to crack down on militants who routinely attack U.S. troops in Afghanistan. And yet the United States is now apologizing to these folks. Isn't this going to allow critics to continue to cast President Obama as apologist in chief? And maybe they've got a point.
Well, I think it is going to allow the critics to do that, but that in this case, actually, again, you got to put the interest of the troops first and the interest of the nation first. So as much as I disagree with the Obama administration on any number of tactics and things that they're doing, the reality here is you've got to be, you got to be realistic about it. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. That matters. And the generals, as much as they are against us at some point, they're more on our side than, frankly, the militants in the mountains, and more so than, frankly, the Pakistani people. So our relations with the military to military relations, are the only thing that kind of keep us having any kind of a hand in there.
What also rankles a lot of people is we give them all kinds of financial aid. I mean, you're talking about tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and yet they were trying to extort enormous amounts of money to allow us and NATO to use those routes. I mean, it was ridiculous, the amount of money per truck.
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, but again, if you're pragmatic about it, they've got us between a rock and a hard place. We've got ourselves in a bad situation in Afghanistan
we could
and Pakistan.
say, hey, no more money to you.
Well, we could, and then they close all the routes, and they make it that much harder to go after it. Again, we've got troops that are currently in harm's way. The part that concerns me is, what are we going to do in a year? I mean, what are we going to do once we've actually pulled mostly out of the region?
Sure.
If these people that are there are bad enough to justify going after today, in 12 months, are they less bad? Are they less worth going after?
Yeah,
I don't know how we're going to do that. We haven't seemed to have thought through it.
Mike Barrett, happy 4th. Thanks for taking the time. Good to see you.
Happy 4th to you as well.